On SNL last Saturday, comic Pete Davidson apologized to Congressman-elect Dan Crenshaw for mocking his war wound.
I made a joke about Lieutenant Commander Dan Crenshaw, Dan Crenshaw, and on behalf of the show and myself, I apologize. It was a poor choice of words. The man is a war hero, and he deserves all the respect in the world.
Now, in case you forgot, this is what Davidson had said initially about Crenshaw last week.
You may be surprised to hear he's a congressional candidate from Texas and not a hitman in a porno movie. I'm sorry, I know he lost his eye in war or whatever.
Now you need to remember that Crenshaw hadn't actually demanded an apology. In fact, he tapped the brakes on the always revving outrage machine.
I want us to get away from this culture where we demand apologies every time someone misspeaks. I think that would be very healthy for our nation to go in that direction. We don't need to be outwardly outraged. I don't need to demand apologies from them.
But SNL knew what it had to do to quell a PR nightmare, and that is man up.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you saying that.
So we good?
We're good. Apology accepted.
Just keep breathing.
It sounds like my phone's ringing.
That's cool. Ariana Grande's love. Cool, man. Yeah.
This is Pete Davidson. He looks like if the meth from Breaking Bad was a person.
All right. Not bad.
Face to face. So rare these days when we hide behind firewalls and lawyers. But SNL went further, giving Crenshaw the space to speak at length about veterans and unity.
Americans can forgive one another. We can remember what brings us together as a country and still see the good in each other. This is Veterans Day weekend, which means that it's a good time for every American to connect with a veteran. Tell a veteran, never forget. When you say never forget to a veteran, you are implying that, as an American, you are in it with them. And never forget those we lost on 9/11, heroes like Pete's father. So I'll just say, Pete, never forget.
Never forget.
Well, that's legitimately awesome. So there were three winners here. Crenshaw for his reasonable response to a careless comment, SNL for finding a clever way to clean up a mess, and America for being handed an honest-to-God blueprint for dealing with future outrages. Instead of ramping up the rage, it dialed it back. We've said it here before. It's beyond time to stop chasing scalps, demanding apologies, only to then refuse them. Haven't we had enough of the mob, the constant indignation, the judgmental hordes of bored souls spoiling for a fight? I know I have. So here Crenshaw initiated the new way forward. Express your opinion, don't condemn, and see what happens. SNL responded with humble, good humor. And it's all good, and dare I say, human. Finally, a skit worth repeating. So I thought, Dana, it was perfectly executed on both sides.
Yes, and they kept it a secret, so everyone was surprised, so that helped, you know, to keep it that way. I find Dan Crenshaw quite refreshing. I remember when he was in a 9-person primary,
yeah,
there was an open seat in Houston, and he was trying to get attention, and there was a woman that was running on the Republican side. She was very, very wealthy and spending all sorts of money. He didn't have any money to run, and so what he decided to do was to actually run his district, 100 miles, 25 miles over 4 days, and try to get attention that way. And I think what's happened is that Houston has found itself a great new leader. They have this congressman who, okay, look, the pop culture, it's not going to be nice to him forever.
Right, true.
Okay? But so he should just take this moment. But it was a really good lesson about leadership. I also appreciated the suggestion for what to say to a soldier. Rather than thank you for your service, to say never forget. I like that.
No, that's very good. Juan, I think this needs to be reposted every time there's a new outrage. Like every week, somebody's already pissed off about something. This is kind of how you solve the problem.
Yeah, you know, so to me, this was so classic and so good. I just agreed with you. I just can't get over Crenshaw's. I'm sorry?
Did that just happen? You're agreeing with Greg?
It's not often, but it does happen. It does happen. I thought that Dan Crenshaw was super classy, and I thought he was classy from the start. Don't mistake me, because I thought when he said, "I don't need an apology,"
right.
You know, people say silly stuff all the time, and I think it was really, you know, above and beyond for him to actually come to New York and go on the show and go through the whole thing. I just thought it was terrific. And what's interesting to me about Crenshaw is he's not your prototypical politician. He's a guy who's a Republican, but he's been highly critical of President Trump, for example. And it strikes me that we need more people like this in public office.
Well, veteran especially, Lawrence.
Especially on Veterans Day.
Yeah.
I think there's a class of 12 or something veterans coming in this time.
Yes.
But we're seeing more veterans and also more female veterans. And I think
both
that's a
sides of the
good
aisle.
thing. Yeah, in fact, there's a PAC right now, Nicole, that promotes veterans running because guess what? Veterans know each other in moments of real threat as Americans.
They know reality.
They don't care if they're Republican or
No.
Democrat.
Yeah, I thought it was a good moment. I thought it was something that the country can embrace or, behind. I just didn't think it was necessary, me personally. Just because I think that so often people on the right are on the receiving end of this.
Yes.
And the tone that normally is set is that fire that person, get rid of them. And you say one thing and it destroys your career. And so I don't want to get in these constant apology tours. I mean, I've seen it on the college campuses at the Leadership Institute Campus Forum, where the mob will take over something so simple that could have been handled behind closed doors. So good gesture, very polite, cool to see. I'm just not in big of a celebration of it.
You think that this is like more of an isolated incident?
It's an isolated incident. And quite frankly, if I'm honest, it was forced. It was forced. The executives called him and was like, look, you've ticked off the veterans, all right?
Yeah.
We got to do something to make this right. If it wasn't about that, then they would have did it behind closed doors.
Interesting point.
But it was in the teleprompter, so it's not like it was just a slip of the tongue.
Yeah. Doc?
I really love what I'm seeing in Congressman-elect Dan Crenshaw. I love the way he handled it from day number one, and not demanding an apology. I think it's great that he actually went on SNL, and he had a little fun with it. It shows his personality. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in the office. I think Pete Davidson's apology was mediocre at best. I wish we didn't even get to a point where there's an apology. I agree. I don't necessarily know if we needed one. I can't believe that the comment came out of his mouth. His father died in 9/11 when he was a young boy. And Dan Crenshaw lost his eye on his third combat tour in Afghanistan a year after 9/11. And he's going to mock him for that? I mean, I don't understand where the thought process is. And that, as you said, it was not off the cuff. This was a written statement. So that was coming. And I still just can't wrap my head around the fact that they thought that that was okay.
I will go back to my defense, even though I said it was a lousy joke, that for some types of humor, the humor is in the fact that it's awful, that you're saying something that is so objectionable, it can't be real.
Right. If it came from any place other than SNL, who makes a mockery of Republicans every week, then maybe I would see a little bit of humor in it, as long as Dan Crenshaw did as well and wasn't offended. But they make a mockery of Republicans, so they were making a mockery specific of him.
Maybe. Gee, I wonder, is there anybody else in American life who regularly mocks people?
Gee.